Hello YouTube and fellow preppers, this is Geordie Prepper. I've got three great channels for you today on today's Monday Mentions, so we're just going to dive straight into the first one, which is Canadian Prepper. This is quite a well-known prepper. He has a growing channel and he covers many different aspects of preparedness, and he covers a lot of topics which are to do with how to survive. We're talking about psychological aspects of survival, philosophical aspects of survival. He does gear reviews. He's involved with some starter campaigns, which you don't see a lot of on a lot of prepping channels. He's involved with a solar power startup item here, with a mono walker system here for hiking, and it's very interesting, that he's actually approached and gotten involved with these sorts of things, because any sort of gear, that can get feedback from the community that's going to be using it is a good thing. He does some awesome giveaways here. He's not a giveaway channel, but when he does a giveaway, it's very good. So, and he does obviously, gear reviews, torches, the things that most preppers do. And he talks to female preppers and their views on prepping and stuff hits the fan. And this is an area that not a lot of preppers on many channels have actually done. They tend to stick to their own format, and Canadian Prepper is very adaptable and versatile in the subject matter that he covers. So the gentleman that runs the Canadian Preppers channel also has another channel called the Philosophical Survivalist. Philosophical, psychological, and things which are linked to preparedness, which are about us. Our physical preparedness is the most important step to take if you ever get into preparedness. But politics, philosophy, psychological aspects, these are all things that Canadian Prepper has covered on his main channel. If you enjoy all of the different topics that he raises on the Canadian Prepper channel, then this is other channel of his is where maybe the more politically incorrect things are going to be discussed. Political correctness is the destroyer of freedom of speech. And yes, obviously YouTube is censored, but the more controversial things, I believe, are going to be up on this channel. And these are still things that need to be talked about. And as a great believer in freedom of speech, I'm obviously very interested in the videos that he puts up on here. The second of today's Monday Mentions is a channel called Carlisle195. This is a gentleman who lives in the city of Carlisle, which is approximately 65 miles to the west of where I am. He does a lot of solo camping, and recently, however, he's been doing some camping with some other YouTubers, which has been very interesting to see. He builds a lot of shelters. If you want to know how to build a shelter, or to build a debris village, or just build a village out of the materials that are around you when you're wild camping, then this is the guy whose channel you want to be taking your ideas from. He has many different sites, campsites, where he wild hammocks and wild camps. And another thing that's worth mentioning, which will become apparent when you view his videos, is just how much food this guy tucks away. I mean, I honestly just don't know where he puts it, because when you look at the build of the guy, you don't know where he must took it in his legs or something. I don't know, but yeah, the size of his food bag is pretty much bigger than most people's bug out bags, by themselves. So he's out there very often in the outdoors, and it's obviously something that I'm aspiring to do a lot more in the future. Once I have the bugging in aspect and my channel and the direction of my channel sorted, then obviously I'm gonna do some wild camping, some hammocking, etc. And a lot of the information and the stuff that this gentleman does in his videos is obviously very appropriate for what I'll be doing, because we both live in England. So The third channel to mention in today's Monday Mentions is Contingency Preps. This is a gentleman who is based in the USA. He's very much into self-sufficiency. This is obviously a very patriotic gentleman as well, being based in America, and obviously believes in the right to life, liberty and property, and self-sufficiency is really just a natural progression of liberty. And unfortunately, that's something that a very twisted and mentally unstable group of people wish to take away from us. So props to this gentleman here for going against that system that's trying to do this. And his videos cover many different things, such as stuff in his self-sufficient garden here. He's trying to go self-sufficient with food, and obviously this means keeping animals, growing things. So we have a lot of tips here for food storage, etc. And he does usual stuff like gear reviews, EDC dumps, etc. What he has as part of his preps. This is clearly a gentleman who's got some sort of military or law enforcement background, but he's very cool and calm and very collected, and he obviously he believes in the right to self-sufficiency, and rightfully he should, because it's the ultimate protection against all sorts of things, really, be that natural disaster or man-made disaster. Being self-sufficient and getting yourself on the route to self-sufficiency and talking about it is something that this gentleman does. He reaches out to channels online, and he does seminars and talks in real life to groups of people who are interested in that sort of thing. So a very good channel to be subscribed to. And if you are thinking about getting into self-sufficiency and emergency preparedness, and basically living off-grid, then this gentleman covers many different aspects which would probably interest you. Alright guys, so that's the 3 channels for today's Monday Mention. I hope that you've enjoyed the selection that I've presented today, and I hope that you'll check out the channels and give them a look-see. The channels that I cover, obviously I just can't do them the justice in the very short space of time that I'm talking about them. But please go and check out at least a couple of their videos and see what the channel's about. And if it's something in there which helps with your preparedness, then that's what these Monday Mentions are about. These are people that I'm subscribed to. They've helped me greatly in my preparedness. These are people that have been prepared for some time before I got into this hobby, and they have a lot to bring to the preparedness table. So last and final thing obviously to say is be safe and be prepared.